Well, folks, the battle for who lands the Detroit Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson as their head coach rages on. He's the most coveted candidate of this hiring cycle. He's supposed to be the next Sean McVay, only he runs a vertical stretch offense and McVay runs a West Coast offense. The Las Vegas Raiders, Jacksonville Jaguars, and Chicago Bears are in a three-way battle for his services. New Raider minority owner Tom Brady got his team in the running, and he has them as front runners right now, but the battle is far from over. Johnson's going to be a first-time head coach when he becomes one, but he's acting like an experienced head coach. He isn't one of those guys desperate to be a head coach. If he doesn't get exactly what he wants, he'll have no problem remaining the Lions offensive coordinator. But the Raiders have stepped up. You remember what happened last year with the Washington Commanders, right? It seemed like the Commanders were all set to bring Johnson on board last offseason, but nope. They had a sudden snafu in the process. What happened depends on who you believe. If you believe Johnson, it's that he had quote-unquote unfinished business in Detroit. They made it all the way to the NFC Championship game last year and came up short in a razor-thin 34-31 loss to the San Francisco 49ers. Well, of course, you could see why a coordinator would want to run it back to see if they can go to the Super Bowl. Or you can believe Commanders insider Lake Lewis. He said the Lions were on their way to Detroit for Johnson's second interview, then they hit the snafu. Johnson wanted Sam Howell to be a starting quarterback and didn't want the Commanders to draft Jaden Daniels. The Commanders wanted Daniels though, so they allegedly turned the plan around and the second interview never happened. Who do you believe? Johnson's had another year to think about it now, so it isn't going to be any easier to get him. But again, the Raiders have stepped up to meet his demands. Will the other two teams? Well, hopefully he doesn't increase those demands. He knows how coveted he is, so he's going to use that to his advantage. He wants the big-time head coach treatment. He wants the power to bring in his own GM. NFL insider Albert Breer has said as much. He said Johnson has made it clear on multiple occasions that he wants organizational alignment for the football staff of a potential landing spot, especially between the GM and himself. What does that sound like to you? It sounds to me like he wants to bring in his own GM. Jaguars owner Shad Khan said when he first fired Doug Peterson that he and GM Trent Baalke would go looking for a head coach together, and they still are. I'm sure the message got to the Bears about what they would have to do to get Johnson too, but like the Jaguars, they still have their GM. I'm guessing that's why all the momentum of Johnson to the Bears and Jaguars has stopped. The NFL media seems to be holding out a little more hope for the Bears though, but as far as momentum goes, that came to a dead stop for both teams. Will one of or both teams do something about that? The momentum is now with the Raiders as they made the move the other two teams wouldn't. They fired GM Tom Telesco. As I said before, I thought Johnson only took the interview out of respect for Tom Brady, but the two came away impressed with each other. Then it really became a thing when Brady fired Telesco, who seemed to be sabotaging Pierce. Look, I'm not saying Pierce is a great coach or that he's even ready to be a head coach, but what he did to Pierce was criminal. He gave him Gardner Minshew to start at quarterback. He had a great draft though. But either way, Brady wants Johnson to have that synergy with his GM as much as Johnson does, so the move was made, and here we are. The Raiders are the team it most looks like Johnson is going to. Quarterback is a concern for the Raiders, but Johnson must not be that concerned about it if he indeed comes. Will he get Hendon Hooker in a trade with the Lions as a parting gift? Is Jackson Dart better than we think, and he gets him at number 6 overall? Well, the real question is Johnson really coming to the Raiders? It looks like we're going to be waiting a while to see if Johnson's going to be with the Raiders. Acquiring his services isn't going to be an easy thing to do regardless. He's not in a hurry to be a head coach. He wants the right opportunity to be a head coach. He wants to keep his job when he gets it and do it his way. If he doesn't get all that, he has no problem staying with the Lions as an offensive coordinator. So the three-team race is now in favor of the Raiders, with the Bears in second and the Jaguars in third. The Brady factor is a part of things, but they're also in this position because they were willing to fire their GM so Johnson can bring in his own. Will one of the other teams step up and fire their GM? Thank you for watching. See you next time.